You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, good evening, folks. Welcome. It is Tuesday. Tuesday, isn't it? Yes, Tuesday. I had to double check. My days are all messed up, being away from home again for a few days. And as you can see, we are back in the home studio. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts. You're watching the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network, or listening to it over there. And if you're already here, you already know you're over at my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Come on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and check out, if you go down below on my YouTube channel, and you see all the archived shows here. We got about 500 of them in here. I've been saying that for a couple of months. There's probably more than that now. There's the live shows, of course, that we've been doing the last few months, as well as all the pre-recorded shows that are in there for the last. We're almost 2 years old. August 19th, we will be 2 years old on the Odyssey Radio Network. And, of course, I've been doing radio for about 20 years, thereabouts. And so there's all kinds of stuff in there. And there's not just radio programs down in my archives. There's all kinds of stuff to look at. So go over and take a look. Just scroll down. Also, while you're here, hit the join button down below this window on the YouTube channel, and you can join this channel. And you can join it. You do that. You can do it while you're listening live tonight. It just pops up a little separate window, and you can choose one of three ways to become a member of this channel. And I would appreciate it, and I thank you for that very much. And man, has it been hot. We're, of course, in Wisconsin, not far from the border, and, of course, over into Minnesota and the Twin Cities up here, Minneapolis, St. Paul. This whole region from here all through the Great Lakes states has been a heat wave. And it was literally 102 degrees in the shade on my patio. And the nice thing, though, is the humidity is down just a little bit, so it's not super oppressive. And so that makes it kind of nice. And we were standing outside tonight, my neighbor John and I, if he's listening over there. I think he's just taking a hot shower. But we were working on our car tonight, and he was doing most of the work. I mostly stood there with my hands in my pockets and leaning on the car, handing him a wrench every now and then. But just a little update on that. We bought that used Suburban. It's old, but it's super clean. But there's some things wrong with it, little things. We were getting sensor readings. Those of you who are autophiles, you will know this stuff. We were getting O2 sensor emissions readings, stuff like that. Easy to change. Click, click. You can change those out. And then we had his buddy from his shop came over, ran the big meter on it. And it showed at first that we were having some cylinders not firing. Some of those you will know what that is. Intermittent problems there. And so they determined it's probably the fuel pump, not the fuel pump, the fuel filter. And so we went and bought the filter for it, went down underneath. John spent almost an hour trying to get the old one off, and without breaking the actual fuel line. Now, maybe to some of you, this sounds like this is auto talk. I didn't know Intrepid Radio was auto talk. It's not. What I know about automobiles could fill a thimble. But it was rusted solid, and he could not get that thing off. So he's been soaking it in some stuff and spraying it up and letting it sit. And hopefully we'll be able to get that off of there tomorrow. And it's drivable now. It's driving. But what it was doing, we'd just lose energy. It would lose power. We'd come to a stop sign, and it'd stop. And that's what happened last night. That's why I got stranded for almost 2 hours last night, starting around 7:15. And it was 9:15 to 9:30 before we even got out of there, and we were still 45 minutes from home. We didn't get home till long after 10 o'clock. So that's why we didn't do a show last night. And I was able to do a little bit from my phone just to tell you, here's why we're not doing a show. So thanks to those of you who tuned in last night. So hopefully, fingers crossed, put up some prayers, put out some good energy. With just, you got to figure with an automobile like this, I got it for really nothing. No cash out of pocket. My buddy Andy, who I was working for the last few days up there at his place, he saw it and he bought it for me. He said, just in trade for the work you're doing for me and any work we got to do on this project, the Hell's Head Coffee project. You can see that right over, see, it's over there, right there, the Hell's Head Coffee. And we were working on all of that stuff to get that company launched. And I think the website's launching today or tomorrow. It would have launched today, maybe tomorrow. And we'll tell you more about that as that comes online and everything works. And so, what are you doing over there?
I'm just grabbing markers.
Okay, you be good up there, all right? Thank you. All right, guys. Familial interlude. Naked 6-year-old child walking in to grab magic markers. That's a little scary thought all by itself. But they're out of here. Mom had to run to the store, so they're by themselves up there. Hopefully being good. They were screaming and yelling just before I came on air. And only one interruption so far. And that's because I let you know she was there. Well, anyway, that's it. Car, put out the good energy. Hopefully, a couple of $100 in. And we'll have that car working just fine. It's a big old white Suburban. Interior is spotless. The engine is spotless. Nobody could find anything wrong with it, except there's these couple little things. That glitch, why did it lose energy? Well, they think it's probably a fuel filter. And the way it's rusted on there, we're hoping we don't have to replace the whole fuel line. So there it is. And now guys like Matt Finn, Steve, you guys are going to recognize that. I don't know if there's anybody else here who works on cars, but you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that stuff. Roger Rabbit, good to see you tonight. And are you going to have an Intrepid brew? We're thinking about it for coffee. We really are. We may run that through Hell's Head Coffee. We'll see. And let's see. Sarah Nichols Media, good to see you. Steve, it's an old car. It's 17 years old. It's a 2003. It's got 200,000+ miles on it. And the thing purrs like a kitten. The engine, I had several people looking at it, and they look and they go, wow, that engine is spotless. And nobody could find anything wrong. The meters weren't showing anything. We showed the O2 meter, and then their big meter didn't even show it. So, Teresa, good to see you. Susie Q, glad you're here. Siani, good to see you as well. I'm scrolling way back to see who all was here. Siani, you were here pretty early. Matthew Sainsbury, good to see you, brother. One of these days, you're going to come on the show sometime in the near future, and we're going to talk. Guys, some of you on Facebook may know a good friend of mine, Michael Freehawk Polani. If you know him, you'll know what he's all about. He's going to come on the show. He's got to get back to me and let me know if he can do Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday evening. And so I'll probably hear from him by tomorrow morning. He is a very interesting man. When I first met him about 11 years ago, he was doing crop circles and stuff like that. Now he's a very spiritual man, Native American, and he does a lot of his, I don't even know how to describe him. I'll wait till tomorrow night so I don't take so much time tonight. But if I know I mentioned your name, Matt and Steve, but Master Finn, welcome. Steve Clark, welcome to the show. And everybody who's out there in Elderberry, I see you there. You almost breezed by me. As I'm scrolling through the chat room, Barbie D, good to see you. Glad you're here as well. Doug Stack, brother Doug. And Doug, the unstackable man. He's already taken off a whole person. So congratulations to you. Carly Sagan, good to see you. I'm sure Kinsey's out there somewhere. If she's not sleeping, hey to Kinsey. And I saw Roger. And so all of you who are joining in and coming in tonight, thanks for being here. Steph, good to see you as well. Those of you who are out there and just watching and not joining the chat room, you are welcome to come in and join the chat room. So a lively bunch of people here, and you'll be very welcomed here. And we're talking about, we were going to start talking last night about Lilith. Who the heck is Lilith? And we've talked about her before. And I wanted to take an opportunity to really look at who she was in relation to the creation story. And for 4,000 years now, Lilith has wandered the earth. figuring all in and out, all these mythic imaginations of writers, artists, poets, religious people, non-religious, spiritual, mythological people. Thousands of years, this woman, this figure has held our imaginations. Her dark origins lie in Babylonian demonology, of all things. And this is where amulets and incantations were all used to counter the sinister power of this winged spirit, this female evil spirit who preyed on pregnant women, preyed on infants and ate them. Lilith next migrated to the world of the ancient Hittites. You can find her in the Egyptian literature, Israelite literature, Greek literature. And she makes a solitary appearance in the Bible as a wilderness demon who's shunned by the prophet Isaiah. In the Middle Ages, she reappeared in Jewish sources as the dreadful ex-wife of Adam. She was actually the first wife of Adam, we're told in rabbinic literature and Jewish writings. And so Isaiah spoke about Lilith in the Bible even. And it's a very interesting thing. And we're going to get into that as we do this little mini series on her. So in the Renaissance period, Michelangelo, of all people, portrayed Lilith as a half woman, half serpent, coiled around the tree of knowledge. Remember the tree of knowledge of good and evil at the center of the Garden of Eden, one of the two trees. The tree of life was the other one. Later, Lilith's beauty would captivate the English poet Dante Gabriel Rossetti. And he said, her enchanted hair, he wrote, was the first gold. Irish novelist James Joyce cast her as the patron of abortions. Get that, James Joyce. Modern feminists celebrate her bold struggle for independence from Adam. My wife used to attend, Rainey would attend the Lilith fests when they had them years ago, before I even knew her. It was all a celebration of feminism, independence from man. And in this case, Lilith being independent from Adam. And her name appears as the title of a Jewish woman's magazine and a national literacy program, the Lilith program, an annual music festival that donates its profit to Battered Women's Shelter. That's the one Rainey attended. And breast cancer research institutes is called the Lilith Fair. And so in most manifestations of her myth, Lilith represents chaos, believe it or not, seduction, ungodliness. Yet in her every guise, Lilith has cast a spell on humankind, all down through the ages. And the ancient name Lilith derives from a Sumerian word for female demons or wind spirits, the Lilitu, and related Ardat Lili. The Lilitu dwells in the desert lands and open country spaces. It's especially dangerous to pregnant women and infants. Her breasts are filled with poison, not milk. The Ardat Lili is a sexually frustrated and infertile female who behaves aggressively toward young men, almost like a succubus. And so the earliest surviving mentions of Lilith's name in history appears in Gilgamesh and the Halupu tree, ancient Sumerian text. Remember Gilgamesh and the flood story that equated to the Noah story? So it's a Sumerian epic poem that's found on a tablet at Ur and dating from approximately 2,000 years BCE, so about 4,000 years ago. And the mighty ruler Gilgamesh is the world's first literary hero. He boldly slays monsters. He vainly searches for the secret to eternal life. And in one episode, after heaven and earth had separated and man had been created, Gilgamesh rushes to assist Inanna, the goddess of erotic love and war. That's funny how she is the goddess of those two things. Would you ever put those together? Erotic love and war put together. That's who Inanna was, the goddess of those two things. In her garden near the Euphrates River, Inanna lovingly tends a willow, a halupu tree. and the wood of which she hopes to fashion into a throne and a bed for herself. And Inanna's plans are nearly thwarted, however, when a dastardly triumvirate possesses the tree. And one of the villains is none other than Lilith. Inanna, to her chagrin, found herself unable to realize her hopes, for in the meantime a dragon had set up its nest at the base of the tree. The zoo bird, S-Z-U, the zoo bird, had placed his young in its crown, and in its midst the demoness Lilith had built her house. Now, wearing heavy armor, brave Gilgamesh kills the dragon, causing the zoo bird to fly to the mountains and a terrified Lilith to flee to the desert. These are all the early writings about Lilith and what she does. Wesley Curry, welcome to the show. He says, poetically, your topic head has a few modern devices and the uses of them as points of Lilith. Indeed, it does. I'm trying to show down through the ages, even into modern times, how that has evolved, this story of Lilith. And Matthew Sainsbury says, Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, and his close friend Enkidu. Some say when Enkidu died, he loves him more than women. Some scholars say they were lovers. Of course, they always say that. You have to say that. Might not have been so odd in ancient times either. And so Gilgamesh was king of Uruk, just like we talked about Atrahasis, the king of Eridu at the same time. So originating about the same time as this Gilgamesh epic is a terracotta plaque known as the Burney relief. Those are some scholars have identified as the first known pictorial representation of Lilith. And if you look at the banner for tonight's show, which you can't see it right now, but if you look at the main channel or over in Facebook where I posted up the advertisement for tonight's show, you'll see that plaque, the plaque of Lilith. It's identified as one of the first representations of her. Now, other scholars more recently have identified the figure as Inanna. And the Babylonian relief shows her as a beautiful, naked sylph with bird wings, taloned feet, and hair contained under a cap decorated with several pairs of horns. And she stands atop two lions and between two owls, and apparently bending them to her will. And Lilith's association with the owl, a predatory and nocturnal bird, bespeaks a connection to flight and night terrors. And so in early incantations against Lilith, she travels on demon wings, a conventional mode of transportation for underworld residents. And dating from the 7th or the 8th century BCE is a limestone wall plaque. And it was discovered in Arslan Tash in Syria in 1933, which contains this horrific mention of Lilith. And the tablet probably hung in the house of a pregnant woman and served as an amulet against Lilith. And it's like Halloween. They would do the jack-o'-lanterns, carve faces on them and so on to ward away the evil. They would wear masks of evil demons and monsters to ward away and scare away the demons. Same thing, they'd put a plaque of Lilith up when a woman was pregnant. And Lilith was believed to be lurking at the door of pregnant women and figuratively blocking the light. And one translation on one of these plaques reads, "O you who fly in the darkened rooms, be off with you this instant, Lilith, thief, breaker of bones." So presumably, and the idea was back then, if Lilith saw her name written on the plaque, she would fear recognition and quickly depart. That whole connection to, if you know the name of a deity or a demon, you can have power over it. It was kind of like that was watered down a bit in the old stories of Rumpelstiltskin, who this young woman would have to work for him to spin gold until she could speak his name or guess his name. Because once she had his name, she had power over him. same idea with this. Evil intentions toward the mother of the child could be thwarted by placing her name and her image in your house. So the plaque offered protection from Lilith's evil intentions toward a mother or a child. And at critical junctures in a woman's life, such as menarche or marriage, the loss of virginity, or childbirth, ancient peoples thought supernatural forces were at work. And to explain the high rate of infant mortality, for example, a demon goddess was held responsible for infant mortality rates. Lilith's stories and amulets probably helped generations of people cope with all their fears of all this stuff that's going on behind the scenes. David Castle, welcome to the show. Good to have you here tonight. Scott Allen, good to see you too, brother. Glad you made it. And Michelle Kenham Free, thank you for your messages today. I appreciated those. Even though I saw them, I didn't get a chance to respond to them. And let's see. And Matthew Sainsbury is absolutely correct here. Long before there were an over-proliferation of male gods, were all these female gods. Morgan Snow, welcome, Morgan. She says there's a book called The Liber Lilith, or Liber Lilith. In it you can find her own story in her words, dictated to Lamech, the son of Methuselah. So I'm just looking to see what all of you have to say as before we keep going further. Let's see. What else have we got? Fast chat. Says Teresa. Greetings, Scott. Good to see you. Morgan Snow, did you read it? Hope you're feeling better. Everybody's saying greetings, everybody. Talk amongst yourselves. And I can continue on with where we are. Let me find that post I put up and hide it again. And so moving on. Over time, people all throughout the Near East became increasingly familiar with the myth of Lilith. In the Bible, she's mentioned only one time, but believe it or not, she's mentioned. But it's not in conjunction with the creation story. It's in Isaiah 34. And the book of Isaiah is a compendium of Hebrew prophecy that spans many, many years. And the book's first 39 chapters, frequently referred to as First Isaiah, can be assigned to the time when the prophet lived, approximately 742 to 701 BC. So he died a fairly young man at 41 years old. And throughout the book of Isaiah, the prophet encourages God's people to avoid entanglements with foreigners who worship alien deities. Alien, not space extraterrestrials, but out of the country, non-Israelite, non-Jewish aliens and their deities. And so in chapter 34 of Isaiah, a sword-wielding Yahweh, Jehovah, the sword wielder, seeks vengeance on the infidel, the Edomites, who were, now you heard about the Edomites when we talked about it. It was such a long time ago that we talked about King David. But King David fought with the Edomites. Now, the perennial outsiders and foes of ancient Israel. And so according to this powerful apocryphal poem, Edom will become a chaotic desert land where the soil is infertile and wild animals roam. It says this in Isaiah. It says, wildcats shall meet hyenas. Goat demons shall greet each other. There too the Lilith shall repose and find herself a resting place. That's Isaiah 34:14. Now, the Lilith demon was apparently so well known to Isaiah's audiences that no explanation of her identity was even necessary. And it says, because it says, there too the Lilith shall repose. Boom, that's all they say about her. Find herself a resting place. And so Israel knew very well who Lilith was. The Isaiah passage lacks a lot of specifics. It doesn't have any details for us in describing Lilith, but it locates her in the desolate places, the wilderness, the desert. And the Bible verse thus links Lilith directly to the demon of Gilgamesh epic, who flees where? To the desert. So Isaiah, the prophet of Israel, links Lilith in Israeli literature, religious literature, to the Lilith of the Gilgamesh epics. She dwelt in the desert, the desolate places. And the wilderness traditionally symbolizes mental and physical barrenness. And it's a place where creativity and life itself are easily extinguished. And Lilith, the feminine opposite of masculine order, is banished from fertile territory and exiled to the barren wastelands. So English translators of Isaiah 34:14, they sometimes lack the confidence in their readers' knowledge of Babylonian demonology. The King James Bible, that old faithful 1611 version compiled by King James of England, Scotland, and Ireland, the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, the first unified king of all of Britain, as we know it today, for the most part. And the version of the Bible that many today say, oh, it's the only version that God breathed. You can only read the King James Version with all of these, thous, wherefore, tos, and thereuntos. And it's just Old English, folks. It was written in 1611, translated in 1611. And there's a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of problems with the King James Version. But the King James Bible, its prose rendition of the poem, translates the Lilith as the screech owl. Now, remember when we said there was an old plaque made of Lilith? She's standing on two lions. She has an owl on each side of her because she was associated with the owl. And so the King James talks about Lilith as the screech owl. Did you know that? Go look up Isaiah 34:14 in your Bible. And you're going to find, oh boy, I almost sounded like a Baptist preacher there. Now take your Bibles and turn to the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah, specifically chapter 34, and we're going to look at verse 14. Now in the Hebrew, this is rendered the Lilith, yet in the English translations, King James took and translated that into the screeching owl, which was a So there you go, blah, blah, blah. That's my Baptist minister speak. I never spoke like that, by the way. When I was a Baptist minister, I spoke the way I speak now, but with fewer swear words. So the screech owl recalls this ominous bird-like qualities of the Babylonian she-demon that we saw in the plaque. And that plaque, again, it's on the graphic for tonight's show. I could call it all up for you, and I suppose I could. Why couldn't I? Why not? Where have I got it? I'm going to show you, just in case you haven't seen that. Let's go look it up. Let's look up Lilith and a representation of her. Here we go. Lilith. Images. I'm going to find this plaque so I can show it to you. And by the way, last night I took a painting from 1887 by David Collier. And that was the graphic that was on last night's graphic, last night's header for the show. And it was taken down by YouTube because it had nudity. It showed a boob. And so I wrote them and I said, now this is a classic painting by David Collier. It was painted in 1887. I said, your checkers here aren't doing a really good job. I said, is YouTube in the business of suppressing the works of the masters? I said, next, can we not show paintings of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling because it shows God's penis and things like that? You know, we don't think about all that stuff. So anyway, let me grab this picture of Lilith. Let me find a good sized one so it renders well. Here's one. Let's bring it over here. And I'm going to blow it up to actually fit on the screen. And I'm going to show this to you. Let me go over here and I'm going to grab my screen. We're going to go share my screen, share the screen, boom, share. And we're going to go right over here. There is, now it's a little bit blurry, But that's the representation of Lilith from ancient Babylon. And you can see her there with that's kind of a blurry version. I'm sorry, but you can see she's naked. She's got the talons of a hawk or an owl on her feet. She's standing on the two lions. She's got an owl to either side of her. She's got the wings, which are the demonic wings. She's got the hat with the horns, and she's holding various implements here. And yes, no, go upstairs. Thank you. Mom will be home shortly. All right. Now, folks, that's Lilith, and that's what we're talking about. This plaque, that's about a 4,000-year-old plaque of Lilith. So let's stop sharing our screen and go back here. And let's see, what do we got? Oh, Iowa X's. I think I saw the screaming in front of the local abortion clinic last week. Let's see. Let's see if we got anything else here. Inanna, Matthew Sainsbury, and Ilitu. Well, you've got it there. Ilatu. And so, or I can't tell if that says Lilatu, Lilitu. Litu, I think, was the spelling I saw. So, Slightly Slanted Sleuth, good to see you. Glad you're here tonight. Anybody else I missed? Iowa X, I saw you, so welcome. And anybody else who snuck in and I didn't see you. So let's get back into this a little bit. Now, so there we go. In the English, she's called the she-owl, the screech owl. And so that recalls the Babylonian plaque that you saw, where she's associated with the owl. And the Revised Standard Translation version of the Bible picks up on her nocturnal habits and tags her the night hag instead of Lilith in that chapter. Isaiah 34:14, where he calls her the Lilith. New King James calls her the screech owl. The Revised Standard Version calls her the night hag instead of Lilith, while the 1917 Jewish publication Society's Holy Scriptures calls her the night monster. And the Hebrew text and its best translations employ the word Lilith in the Isaiah passage. But other versions are true to her ancient image as a bird, a night creature, or a bedlam hag of some sort. So while Lilith isn't mentioned again in the Bible, she does resurface in, guess where? The Dead Sea Scrolls of Qumran. The Qumran sect was engrossed with demonology. And Lilith appears in the Song for a Sage, it's called. It's a hymn possibly used in exorcisms. And it says this, "And I, the sage, sound the majesty of his beauty to terrify and confound all the spirits of destroying angels and the bastard spirits, the demons, Lilith, and those that strike suddenly to lead astray the spirit of understanding and to make desolate their heart." So the Qumran community was absolutely familiar with the Isaiah passage, 34:14. And the Bible's sketchy characterization of Lilith is echoed by this liturgical Dead Sea Scroll. And Lilith may also appear in a second Dead Sea Scroll. And there's another mention, which I don't have written down here, so I can't tell you what it is, but I know it's mentioned again. And I was going to look that up and put a reference in here, and I don't have it. But centuries after the Dead Sea Scrolls were written, learned rabbis completed the Babylonian Talmud. That's the final editing, about 500 to 600 of the Common Era, AD. And female demons journeyed into the scholarly Jewish inquiries. And the Talmud, the name comes from the Hebrew word meaning study, is this compendium of legal discussions. They're tales of great rabbis and meditations on Bible passages, and Talmudic references to Lilith are few. They're very scant, but they provide a glimpse of what intellectuals thought about Lilith. The Talmud's Lilith recalls older Babylonian images. For she has long hair, that's Irubin 100b. And the wings they leave on her, and that's Nida 24b. And the Talmud's image of Lilith also reinforces older impressions of her as a succubus, a female demon, a demon in female form who had sex with men while men were sleeping. Unwholesome sexual practices are linked to Lilith, and she's powerfully embodies the demon lover myth. So one Talmudic reference about Lilith claims that people shouldn't sleep alone at night. Boom, there you go. Don't sleep alone at night, lest Lilith slay them. That's in Shabbat 151b of the Talmud. And during the 130-year period between the death of Abel and the birth of Seth, the Talmud reports a distraught Adam separates himself from Eve. And during this time, he becomes the father of ghosts and male demons and female or night demons. That's in Reuben 18b. And those who try to construct the Tower of Babel are turned into apes and spirits and devils and night demons. That's from the Sanhedrin 109a. And the female night demon is none other than Lilith. Now, wouldn't that all by itself make a great study on this show? Looking into how a distraught Adam is separated from Eve, and during this time he becomes the father to ghosts, male demons, female demons, or night demons they're called. And that those who try to construct the Tower of Babel were turned into apes and spirits and devils and night demons. Isn't that interesting stuff? That would be very interesting to do a little study on that and see what the hell that's all about. I heard a door outside because my child wandered in and left my door wide open. Oh, wait, this time it was a dog. The dog came in and nosed the door open. So, well, there's somebody. And my children are supposed to be in bed, and they're all still up now, helping mom carry things in. So that's a good thing. How's that for familial interlude? So let's see. What was this? Susie Q says, no, she didn't. You were just dreaming. I think you're probably talking to somebody, Susie Q, who made I'm sure, a quip about, that must have been Lilith at night. Let's see. Who was it? I got to see what was said. Oh, Lilith is in the little book, Revelation, and the little scroll, Ezekiel, for bitters and woe, says Wesley. Let's see, what else we got? I saw something. Field guy said, Lilith touched my naughty place. That has to be it. You know what? Field guy, you better make sure it wasn't your cat or the neighbor's cat or your dog. Do you have a dog? Or worse, yourself. Field guy touched your naughty place. Can you imagine a haunted house like that? Matthew Sainsbury says. Yeah. Lilith is my carnal desires. Seth means anointing. So Lilith is my carnal desires, and Seth means anointing, says SSS, Slightly Slanted Sleuth. And what else we got here? Susie and Field guy, referencing to Adam in flesh, says Sleuth. And it's a real pain in the nebulous ass. That's what that is, says Wesley Curry. That's very true. Matt Finn says the dog is worse. Our dumb little dog, I say dumb affectionately, Lucy Fur. She's half pug, half mini English bulldog, and about as heavy as a car. She'll sleep up on the bed, and she doesn't wake up. She's like a lug. If she rolls over onto my blankets, or is on my feet, or in the way, or stretched out, you got to actually get up and grab her by the back legs and kind of drag her down to the other side of the bed. Then in the morning, she doesn't wake up. She doesn't get grumpy. She just didn't wake up. She's like, So, yeah, she's worse in that respect. The dog from MIB was an alien pug. Yes, you're right, Field guy. That's been brought up before here. So about the time that all these Talmudic writings were complete, it was all compiled, people living in the Jewish colony of Nippur in Babylonia also knew of Lilith. And her image has been unearthed on numerous ceramic bowls known as incantation bowls for the Aramaic spells inscribed on them. Wouldn't it be fascinating? I've always thought this. It would be fascinating to own an artifact like that, an incantation bowl, one of the original ones with the name of Lilith on it. You know, you see guys like Zach Baggins in his museum, John Zaffis before when he has his museum of haunted objects out in Connecticut. He's had that for years. And you see these things and they collect these things. And you know that objects can hold spirit energy. That's been my experience anyway. Could you imagine? I wonder what it would be like to unearth a bowl like that, or to have in your possession a bowl like that. I've got a bowl here. Where have I got it? It's Mayan. My grandfather gave this to me when I was in high school, when he was buying his land down on the islands down in Honduras. Hang on. I'm going to walk over here and see if I see it. I think it's in my cabinet. And if not, I won't show it to you. I thought it was in here. And now I'm not really seeing it. It's so much stuff in here. Hang on. I got to move Buzz Lightyear and take a look. There's my pipes. There's rocks. There is a stone from near Luxor. I do not see it. I thought for sure that was in here. Hold on. I'm going to keep talking. You guys can keep listening. I'm just going to take a quick look in here because it might be in here stashed with my Bigfoot casting. And I got all kinds of cool stuff in here. I think I showed you some of this before. But I think that bowl is in here. It would be something like this, if I can find it. You see if it's here. No, that's all Egyptian stuff. Here it is. I found it. All right. Now, I only take this out not because it's a casting bowl of Lilith, but just to make a comparison here. Here we go. All right. So this is a bowl that my grandfather got me off of the little island of Roatan. And you can see here some of the markings on it. And he gave me this bowl. Now, it's probably nowadays, it would be illegal to take this out of the country. He brought this back in the mid-1970s and gave it to me. And you can look at the way the pottery was made to date it. And so this is the piece he brought me. And I'm only bringing this up for reference. So I don't know what these incantation bowls look like. And I don't know what this bowl was for. If it was just a serving bowl or what it was. But this has been sitting on my shelf for years, since high school days. When I was in high school, it sat on my bookshelf in my bedroom at my mom's house. When I went to college, I had it there. And this has actually survived all these years, sitting in with all my artifacts and things. But the incantation bowls made me think of this. And it would be something like that. I think it would be very interesting to see what that thing would be like, what that bowl would be, and to own one, to possess it. Would it still hold spiritual power, do you think? There's a possibility there. Worth looking into. Anyway, so this is the bowls. And you can see one of the bowls that's now on display at Harvard University's Semitic Museum. And it reads this on that incantation bowl. Just like you see this is just a design. So you're not seeing any writing there. There is no writing that we could ever find on this, just design work. But the bowl, the one incantation bowl, dating to approximately 600 CE, so it'd be 600 AD, if you will. It says, "Thou Lilith, hag and snatcher, I adjure you by the strong one of Abraham, by the rock of Isaac, by the Shaddai of Jacob, to turn away from this Rashnai, and from Geonai, her husband, your divorce and writ and letter of separation sent through holy angels. Amen, amen, Selah, hallelujah. So this is an inscription that was meant to offer a woman named Rashnoi protection from Lilith. And according to the popular folklore, demons not only killed human infants, they would also produce depraved offspring by attaching themselves to human beings and copulating at night. That's where you get these changelings of Irish lore. And therefore, in this particular bowl, a Jewish writ of divorce expels the demons from the home of Rashnoi. Now, until the 7th century A.D., Lilith was known as a dangerous embodiment of dark, feminine powers. And in the Middle Ages, the Babylonian she-demon took on the new and even more sinister characteristics that we become more familiar with of Lilith. Sometime prior to the year 1000 AD, the alphabet of Ben Sira introduced to medieval Jewry. The alphabet was an anonymous text, and it contained 22 episodes corresponding to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And the 5th episode includes a Lilith, who was to tantalize and terrify the population for generations to come. To some extent, the alphabet of Ben Sira shows a familiar Lilith. She's destructive. She can fly. She has a penchant for sex. Field guy went, oh, what's her number? Call me. Yet this tale adds a new twist. In this tale is where we first hear that she is Adam's first wife before Eve, who boldly leaves Eden because she's treated as the man's inferior. She wasn't cast out of Eden. She left because she was treated like an inferior. And so the alphabet's narrative about Lilith is framed within a tale of King Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadnezzar, however you want to say it, of Babylon. Remember King Nebuchadnezzar? Any of you remember who he was? The king's young son is ill in the tale, and a courtier named Ben Sira is commanded to cure the boy. Invoking the name of God, Ben Sira inscribes an amulet with the names of 3 healing angels. He then relates a story of how these angels travel around the world to subdue evil spirits such as Lilith, who cause illness and death. And Ben Sira cites the Bible passage indicating that after creating Adam, God realizes that it's good for man not to be alone. That's Genesis 2:18. We're all familiar with that. God saw the man, he was good, but he's alone, and it's not good for man to be alone. And in Ben Sira's fanciful additions to the biblical tale, the Almighty then fashions another person from the earth, a female named Lilith. And soon the human couple begin to fight. What's so uncommon about that? It started at the beginning. They fought. And but neither one really hears the other. They don't want to listen to each other. They're equals to each other. Lilith refuses to lie underneath Adam during sex. I don't want the bottom. You take the bottom. I need the top. I'm in charge. And Adam's like, no, I'm in charge. You take the bottom. So, but Adam insists that the bottom is Lilith's rightful place as the woman. And he apparently believes that Lilith should submissively perform wifely duties. Lilith, on the other hand, is attempting to rule over no one. She's simply asserting her personal freedom. And she states, we are equal because we are both created from the earth. This is what's in this story, the alphabet of Ben Sira. And the validity of Lilith's argument is more apparent in Hebrew, where the words for man, Adam, and earth come from the same root, Adam. Adam. That's man and earth. Adama, earth. And think of Admiral Adama in science fiction. Oh, good grief. Why am I skipping the name? The science fiction saga was remade. Starbuck, Admiral Adama. Why am I going blank on the name of that series? Battlestar Galactica. There you go. And so since Lilith and Adam are formed of the same substance, they're alike. And they're alike in importance. And so the struggle continues until Lilith becomes so frustrated with Adam's stubbornness and arrogance that she brazenly pronounces the Tetragrammaton, the ineffable name of God. God's name, Yahweh, translated as Lord God in most Bibles, and roughly equivalent to the term Yahweh. And it's long been considered so holy that it's unspeakable. That's why they only spell it without they spell it YHWH. It's an abbreviation. And so during the days of the Jerusalem temple, only the high priest said the word out loud. And then only one time a year. And on the Day of Atonement, in Jewish theology and practice, there's still mystery and majesty attached to God's special name. The Tetragrammaton is considered the name that comprises all. That's Zohar 19a. And in the Bible's burning bush episode of Exodus 3, God explains the meaning of the divine name as I am what I am, or I will be what I will be, or I am that I am you speak of. I am, I am. I am that Enki they speak of in Sumerian wordplay, Mesopotamian wordplay. And so it's kind of a formula, the Yahweh, the Vuya. And if I'm pronouncing that right in Hebrew, it's associated with the Hebrew root to be. And the whole of the Torah is thought to be contained within the holy name. In the alphabet, Lilith sins by impudently uttering the sacred syllables, thereby demonstrating to a medieval audience at the time this was written, her unworthiness to reside in paradise. So Lilith flies away, having gained power to do so by pronouncing God's avowed name. And though made of the earth, she's not earthbound. And her dramatic departure reestablishes for a new generation Lilith's supernatural character as a winged devil, because she falls from the grace of God. And in the Gilgamesh and the Isaiah episodes, Lilith flees to desert spaces. In the alphabet of Ben Sira, her destination is the Red Sea, the site of historic and symbolic importance to the Jewish people. And just as the ancient Israelites achieved freedom from Pharaoh at the Red Sea, so Lilith gains independence from Adam by going there. But even though Lilith is the one who leaves, it is she who feels rejected and angry. Sometimes you leave because you're pissed at being rejected. And this is how she is painted. And the Almighty tells Adam that if Lilith fails to return, 100 of her children must die each day. And apparently Lilith is not only a child-murdering witch, but also an amazingly fertile mother. And so in this way, she helps maintain the world's balance between good and evil. She had all these evil kids. So 3 angels are sent in search of Lilith. And when they find her at the Red Sea, she refuses to return to Eden, claiming that she was created to devour children. And Ben Sira's story suggests that Lilith is driven to kill babies in retaliation for Adam's mistreatment and God's insistence on slaying 100 of her offspring every day. And so to prevent the 3 angels from drowning her in the Red Sea, Lilith swears in the name of God that she will not harm any infant who wears an amulet bearing her name. Ironically, by forging an agreement with God and the angels, Lilith demonstrates that she's not totally separated from the divine. And maybe this is how your medieval churches made some money. Hey, and by the way, we're selling these amulets with Lilith's image and name on it for only... Women, put that on. And so, slightly slanted sleuth says, Pharaoh is our ego. Egypt is our ego amok. That's interesting. Red and light. Interesting. I think that they were real. literal, but obviously. But at the same time, I see what you're saying. The way they are used literarily, if you will. So Lilith's her relationship with Adam is a different matter altogether. Their conflict is one of patriarchal authority and versus a matriarchal desire for emancipation, and the warring couple can't seem to reconcile. Irreconcilable differences lead to that divorce, and they represent the archetypical battle of the sexes. Neither attempts to solve their dispute or to reach some kind of compromise where they take turns being on top and on the bottom. I get the top, you at the top last night, I get it tonight, type of thing, literally and figuratively. But man can't cope with woman's desire for freedom, and women will settle for nothing less. And in the end, they both lose. So, why did the alphabet's unnamed author produce this tragedy about Lilith? What compelled the author to theorize that Adam had a mate before Eve? Where did he get this idea? Did he just make that shit up for his book in medieval times? And the answer might be found in the Bible's two creation stories. In Genesis 1, living things appeared in a specific order. Plants, then animals, then finally man and woman are made simultaneously on the sixth day. Male and female he created them. Genesis 1:27. And in this version of human origins, man and woman, humankind, in the New Revised Standard Version, are created together and appear to be equals. And in Genesis 2, however, man is created first, followed by plants, and then animals, and then finally the woman. She comes last because in the array of wild beasts and birds that God created, he created nothing that was a fitting helper to be found for Adam. And so the Lord therefore casts a deep sleep upon Adam, returns to work, forming the woman not out of the dust of the ground, but out of Adam's rib. And God presents woman to Adam, who approves and names her Eve. And one traditional interpretation of this second creation story, which scholars identify as the older of the two accounts, is that the woman is made to please man and is subordinate to him. So you got that, ladies? You guys were created to please us. Who has two thumbs and likes women who were made to please him? This Adam. That's the way that they tried to teach that passage. So considering every word of the Bible to be accurate and sacred, commentators needed a midrash or a story to explain the disparity in the creation narratives of Genesis 1 and 2. Why are there these two seemingly contradictory accounts? God creates woman twice, once with man, once from man's rib. So there's must have been two women. And the Bible names the second woman Eve. Lilith was identified as the first in order to complete the story. And so another plausible theory about the creation of this Lilith story, however, is that Ben Sira's tale in his alphabet book is in its entirety a deliberately satiric piece that mocks the Bible. The Talmud and the other rabbinic exegeses are also mocked by his story. And the alphabet's language is often more coarse in its tone, and it's irreverent in tone. And it exposes the hypocrisies of biblical heroes such as Jeremiah, and offering serious discussions of vulgar matters such as masturbation, flatulence, and copulation by animals. And in this context, the story of Lilith might have been a parody that never represented true rabbinic thought. It might have served as lewd entertainment for rabbinic students and the public, but it was largely unacknowledged by serious scholars of the time. And whether the writer of the alphabet is intended to produce earnest midrash or irreligious burlesque the treatise proclaims that Lilith is unfit to serve as Adam's helper. While medieval readers might have laughed at the story's bawdiness, who's on top, who's on bottom, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the risque tale, Lilith's desires for liberation are thwarted by male-dominated society. And for this reason, all of the Lilith myths, her portrayal of the alphabet, in the alphabet of Ben Sira, is today the most trumpeted, despite all of the distinct possibility that its author was actually spoofing sacred texts all along. And there's so much more to talk about. I'm not even halfway through the material just for tonight, so we're going to pick it up again tomorrow. Unless, of course, we have Michael Freehawk Polanyi joining us by tomorrow. He's going to be with us either tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, and we're going to talk about his stuff. And go look him up. If you're on my Facebook, look up Michael Freehawk, one word, Freehawk, Polanyi, Polani. And you'll see what he's about. He's going to come and talk to us. Really respect this guy. I have a draw to him on a spiritual level that I can't explain. I only met him one time. We spoke at the same conference together back in Prescott, Arizona, back in, I want to say 2010. And I met him, and I took a liking to his material and the kind of nature he had, the person he was. And I followed him over the years, and I find him, and we've communicated bits and pieces over the years. He was on my radio show once before, a long time ago. And I've got a draw to his spirituality, and I think that you'll like him. So there you go, folks. That's our show tonight. And I appreciate the fact that you're here, that you gave me your time. Let's see. I see. I didn't pay close attention to this, to the chat room. I hope you all did. I didn't even give a link tonight. I wouldn't have fit a call in anywhere anyway. And if I had, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did, and maybe that's okay. Teresa said masculine and feminine energies combined. That means balance and stability, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does. So what do you think? Was that secondary tale written to put women in their place by a patriarchal society? Interesting. So anyway, there we go, folks. That's tonight's show. Baseball-sized hail for Siani. Wow. Holy crap. Let's see. What else we got? Barbie D got confused by the baseball-sized hail heading her way. Let's see. We have 4 fingers, 1 thumb. Without a thumb, our fingers are worthless. We have 4 limbs and 1 head. Without a head, our limbs are worthless. Well, that's a great analogy. I don't know what the analogy is for, but I agree with you on both counts. So, Slightly Slanted Sleuth said, mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender equals 7 loop. I have no idea what that means. Maybe you can explain that to us. So everybody, anyway, once again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you giving me your time. Wesley says, I really like your style and what act got the agu on Samson. For the future, perhaps. Oh, yeah. We talked about Samson once before. We'll hit some of that again. So, Wesley, Barbie D, Morgan Snow, Teresa, Matt Finn, Michelle Canham Free, heart, Scott Allen, Slightly Slanted Sleuth, David Castle, everybody in there, Steve Clark. I don't see you all, but I want to thank you, Susie Q. I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. And so you know what? As we do with every night, live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.